Let me jump in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to She's Single Media in collaboration with Kicking It with Kenya. I am here with the hardworking and multi-talented Kinyumba Mutakabbir, right?
Oh, that was so close.
Oh,
But
man, are you serious?
It was like decimal space close.
Really? It was decimal space, though?
Yeah, it was good.
I was really practicing because I love your song. I loved your song, and I feel like I wanted to ask you, like, were you one of those kids that went by a nickname, or did you really encourage people to say your name?
You know, I went through phases. I lived in New York, and I moved to Atlanta, to like North Gwinnett County, Atlanta, and I was dealing with a lot of other folks who just, butchered my name to just a ridiculous degree. So I kind of went with nicknames, but once I got to college, I was pretty adamant. Y'all got to stop calling me Ken and Kenny and all that stuff, and just call me my name. But even now, like, people say King because it's what it means. And if you say Kinyumba, you actually say the name better than most people can pronounce it. So yeah, it's ebb and flow. I was just talking to another friend of mine about cultural appropriation and trying to get people to say an ethnic name versus a traditional Caucasian name, and just the battle from entertainment to the corporate America. So it's interesting you brought that up.
Yeah, because so my name obviously is Kenya, and it's crazy how people will mess that up. And I'm just like, how? It's like you literally sound it out. I got Kenya, I got Kendra before. So I'm like, I can only imagine what you had, growing up with your name.
And I feel like it's just phonetic. Just sound it out. Take your time. Like, you did a great job. You sounded it out. Take your time. I mean, maybe you may have heard the song. That's kind of why I made the song, because I was joking with my girl, and I was just like, yo, like, I'm just about to just spit some bars and just make it my whole name, my whole song, my whole name. And I was like, we're gonna do a flash mob video and everything.
It was so dope. You had the African drums and everything in it. I was like, yo, he's funny.
I recorded that in the closet.
You recorded in the closet?
Yeah, I recorded that in the closet.
Oh my God. Well, I like the song, but obviously the origin of it wasn't a pleasant one. But I love how you turned it into joking about it, and basically do your research on how to say my name.
That's been my remedy, is to try to have fun with, things that you normally take offense to,
Yeah, that's good. So, obviously you are, like I said, multi-talented actor, martial artist, director, entrepreneur. I feel like I'm leaving off something else that you do. I would say activist, just all of these things. Actor, this, I love that. I just feel like with all of the things you do, did you ever imagine your life being this full when you were a kid?
Yeah, because that's the way my life was as a kid. My father had us in martial arts schools, his martial arts schools. Then my mother had me in after school program. So it was like boom, 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 my whole life, Then I played sports once I got to Atlanta. So then that added another wrinkle into it. When I was in college, I was in Inroads, I was in NAACP, I played Alpha. I'm an Alpha, shout out to the Brothers 06. And then I played football, and and then I had cum laude grade point average. I just feel like life is for just accessible. Trying to access everything. I've always been the type of person. That's actually how I got into acting. It's funny. I remember to this day when I was like 8 or 9. It was a career day kind of class, and they was asking us, what do we want to be? And I was like, man, I want to be a rock star. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a football player. And the girl was like, why don't you just be an actor? That way you can act like all of them things. And I was just like, I was like, oh shit, I could do that. That's real. And so I've always had a passion for just make believe and just trying to create, all these different parallels. And so now, instead of it being make believe, I just turn my dreams into reality.
Yeah, it's like you and like Master P and them have lived every man's fantasy life so far. Like the man he had 3 careers: basketball, rap, actor, entrepreneur. Like, it's beautiful.
Name this is Master P. I'll take that. That man right there is doing it. So, but I think that's that's what life is about. I think everybody has this, you know, it's a pie, right? You know, everybody has different facets to the pie. It's just, for
I
me,
like
it's
that.
like, how can I monetize each facet? You know, if I like health and wellness and I'm big on how I eat and how I live and my mental health, you know, maybe I can monetize that. If I'm big on fashion, I love my way I dress, I can monetize that, you know? And we live in a wonderful age right now where content is king. So, you know, you can really kind of like monetize your lifestyle. We see it every day. You know, that's what, you know, these other individuals on IG and social media are doing. So it's just about being creative and honestly, I think it's being bold, you know, not taking, you know, like you said about the song, right? You know, a lot of
Yes.
people wouldn't take that risk, but I don't think it's a risk if it's just an expression of you. It's just, then it's just art.
Yeah, and I like the conversation that I feel like we're now having that in the current years of entrepreneurship. And like you said about monetizing the things that you're interested in. Those were
Yeah.
conversations that, I mean, unfortunately, my mom always said she didn't get those conversations.
No.
And it's like it skipped her generation and kind of went to us. So it's like, I love that now we're having those type of talks.
Because we're the kids who went to college and they came out with no job.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like the whole thing changed. And now like younger generation not even going to college as much. Because
No.
it was like, you know, go to school, get a good degree, get a good job, retire. That was the whole game plan. And before that, it was just get a good job and retire. It wasn't go to school. So
Yeah.
now it's like become enterprising, create your own value, demand your space into the world. And, you know, that's an amazing concept because that's ultimately what this country was founded on. It's just unfortunate that Black and indigenous people of color wasn't included in that process.
Yeah. And it's sad because like a lot of the things my mom, like when I talk to my mother, she's like, I'm just so jealous of like just the internet and the things that you guys have that we didn't have growing up. It was like, you know, you had the factory workers and you like her generation was get a job, get a job, get a job. College wasn't, and depending on how you grew up, college wasn't even a choice. You
Right.
know, you had to get a job to help the family. You couldn't
They
take
get a
the
job at 13.
Mm-hmm.
Aunts and uncles had jobs at 13, 14 and went straight to the military, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. So I have to ask you though, in your career and everything that you have done, was there, I mean, this is like my signature question I ask anybody, was there anybody that left you like starstruck when you met them or nervous when you first had to work with them?
Well, I can say the obvious answers. Yeah, obviously Queen Latifah comes to mind, Robert
Yeah,
Downey
you was
Jr.
in
comes to
Star,
mind.
definitely.
Yeah, those things come to mind. It was actually interesting when I first met Queen. Um, she came up like she's such a force of energy. She walked into the set like, all right, so who's the brown skinned cutie I'm supposed to be working with today? And I was like, here I am, Queen. And the whole fucking set just was dying because it was like nobody expected for me to reply like that. And that's kind of how I am. Like I just pop off like, fuck it, what's up? I'm here right here. What's up? Where you at? But
You matching energy. I'm
yeah,
matching energy.
we hit it off ever since. She's a Pisces too, so like she's a good sister, and we you know. But it's not an obvious choice. I actually worked on a set of Entourage, and
Oh, I like that show when it was on. Yeah.
and it was one of the first sets I worked on. It's one of the reasons why I moved to California because I saw that I was like, I'm fucking Chase, yo. I'm going after that. I'm coming out there and I'm about to get me an agent like that who's gonna like blood, sweat, and tear for me. I'm gonna have my homie, my manager, my big brother. You know, he was actually trying to move to California at the time too. I'm like, he's my hype man. We're gonna do this thing like just like Vinny, right? And come this day of the set, the shoot, Vince walks on the set. And I wasn't like starstruck, but I was just like, damn, so that's how I look. That's how it, and so that was like my first example of, for me at the time, of being around like that quote unquote Hollywood elite, those who quote unquote made it on a set. It was like my second or fourth week out there in LA. And it just kind of like, it put some fuel on my fire. But then, you know, I've always been blessed with this idea, like we all humans put our legs on one at a time, put pants on one leg at a time. So I wasn't really like dumbfounded, starstruck, but I was definitely like put into that space of like, I got you.
Everybody always say that they breathe the same air as you, but come on, you know there's a few people out there that kind of leaves you like, I just met them. I just met them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, I met some dope people, honestly. I mean, I met Clinton, I met Drake, I met Denzel. You know, I met some cool people.
You met Denzel?
Yeah, I met her at the Merge Summit with Robbie Reed. Shout out to Robbie Reed and her. She has a Merge Summit that I don't know if she still does it, but it's like a faith-based summit, I should say. And it's to help people who are looking to advance their career. I met him and a bunch of great people. I was in Miami and I met Trina once, and I was like,
She seems
damn,
nice.
Trina is a beautiful woman in
Yeah,
person.
she seems really nice and fun to be around.
Jesus Christ. So that maybe that's the one you're talking about. Maybe you caught my breath.
She's gonna be in the verses. You gonna
No
watch?
way. With who?
Eve.
Oh
They
yeah,
announced it on Shade Room, Eve versus Trina. I was like, really?
I
I
can see
thought that
that.
was two different styles, but I'm like, I guess I can see what they're trying to do.
Same era, the same kind of like gangster chicks who like will let you know what time it is. I can see
Yeah.
that. I can see that. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. So I guess you're gonna be rooting for Trina, huh?
I mean, look, shout out to the East Coast. I got love for Philly.
So secretly it's Eve. He's like, I met her, but that don't mean
There's only but so much whoop whoop you can do. But at the end of the day, she's a beautiful musician and an even more beautiful person. I'll give you that. Like it's different, be a great artist, but I think it's more important to be a good person, a great person.
I think so too, because you don't want to wake up, you got all this success, and then it's like you done burnt so many bridges or don't have the closeness of friendships around you.
I'll tell you who I did meet too that posthumously that I kind of wish I got more out of and had more time with was Chadwick.
Yeah. He seemed like a beautiful soul to be around.
His energy was just so warm.
You worked with him or you just met him?
No, I met him at a what was the event? I think it was Uptown Magazine. It was like an event, and it was for like a award. They have those award parties, a whole bunch of like different series of parties or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a photo circulating somewhere online.
Did you get a picture with him at least?
Yeah. It was like funny because it was like Black Salt meets Black Panther. It was kind of like a little. They had my team had a little fun with that, but it was cool. It was nice.
Yeah, I mean it's so crazy how some things it just like happens out of nowhere, and that was one that happened out of nowhere.
I know, and it was crazy because I can attest because I'm going through my own personal things in my family, not me personally, but my family and my household. And you never know what somebody's going through. You never know. And so I'm learning in that, even though I didn't necessarily know what he was going through, I didn't know the nuances and intricacies, just to see the way on the surface, how he presented it is a masterclass of how to handle, just media and the dynamics between media and personal life. And I think it's important because one, if you kind of maintain your civility and humility and and humanity in your interactions and not like look at it as like some sort of like death wish or curse, you can actually help save someone else who's going through that because they ultimately now can see the positivity in things. I was talking to a friend about this the other day. Our mental state is so important to our physical space, right? So I just really wanted to take that knowledge or that opportunity and put that towards my life and how I'm moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. Like look at all the projects he did while battling what he was battling. I feel like like you said, anybody who might be going through the same thing, it shouldn't, like he basically was like one of the beacons of how it shouldn't stop you. You can push yourself to do the things that you're doing all while battling. I felt like what you said is like he represented a really good symbol for that.
And then also, I say something that sort of similar or like kind of alludes to the same principle, but that's embrace the suck. Like it's a sucky situation, but it doesn't mean it's negative. There's still value in it. As with anything, there's value. So even though you may not want to do it, just do it with a smile and you'll be surprised at how easily it's done and then how much more valuable it is for you.
Yeah. I just wanted to talk a little bit about like your actorvist work. Because I'm noticing like a change nowadays. Maybe I'm catching on, but I'm noticing a change with like more celebrity like actors or rappers and like activists. And it's like they're using their voices really loud and really proud. And I want to know like what pushed you to pursue it like as loud and proud as you do?
Well, I always wanted to be an actor to have a platform to do this.
Oh, so this was your goal?
Yeah, it wasn't really to win an award or to have some sort of like fame. I mean, the fame would come with this being the benefactor of it. You know, I was never really a vanity play kind of guy. Um, I grew up in South Jamaica, Queens, you know, like between Flushing and South Jamaica, keep it
Oh,
100.
so you're
But
from New York. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, I mean, being in that environment, I saw my first murder. I was like 11, 12, and there was a little girl who was breathing through her throat. And my brother was murdered when I was 15. So, I mean, I've seen a lot, you know, and gang violence, you know, was involved in my community. But I always felt like it was deeper. You know, my father was a member of the Nation of Islam. He was a member of the Fruit of Islam, which is like the militarized version of the Nation of Islam. Um, so I understood how important working together is. And I just been really encouraged by that narrative starting to have more legs, especially with social media. And I think what's happening, and I think to your point, why more actors and more musicians and, you know, other forms of artistry are turning into more activisms or activists, is because they're less controlled. They're less controlled by big business, because now you can produce your own music. You can, you know, self-distribute yourself. My film is self-distributed. I didn't have to wait for someone to do it for me. So now I get to actually voice my own personal opinion. And if you think about what activism means, it's really just a matter of fighting for equanimity and equality, creating value for your people, for yourself, or for, you know, your community that can continue to grow. I think, you know, a lot of the music and a lot of the entertainment that we see or have been seeing has been conditioned based on, you know, other people looking for monetization and creating, you know, a narrative that helps promote their bottom line. And I think part of the activism that I'm seeking is to create a less people who are lesser interested in that, right? And maybe more interested in something a little more progressive and you know, just even outside of the box, even more creative, like, hey, a love story, right? But I think for me personally, that was always my objective. My objective was always to create content or be a character. One of the reasons why I was really big on being a superhero, action hero, being involved in that was because I always wanted to be Superman or Batman. And no one really thought that that was possible, gave me that permission. So, you know, that was kind of like, well, if I saw someone who was Black and played Batman or Superman or played a hero that wasn't like, you know, Meteor Man or Blade, then I could look at that and say, hey, man, I could be that. Like, there aren't, you know, if you look at the Avengers, the only heroes are the guys who have like their sidekicks. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that don't make any sense, you know? And I mean, that goes for a lot of other, you know, ethnicities. There's not a lot of Asian superheroes. There's not a lot of Hispanic or Latino superheroes, indigenous superheroes. And that just kind of is a false narrative. It shows, you know, a false sense of supremacy, a false sense of elitism and entitlement. And, you know, we deal with programming. That's what this is. TV programming, audio, visual is programming. And it's important that we are cognizant of what we're receiving, because even though we may say on the surface level with our conscious mind, hey, yo, I can discern between what's real and what's not real. And, you know, obviously this isn't a real person who can shoot lasers from his eyes, but in your subconscious mind, you may now say, okay, well, this is a white person and they've always been seen as this way. And they've been depicted as not only superheroes, but as God, as gladiators, as victorious conquerors, as, you know, owners of men. Then maybe we should not mess with them because they can control, you know, our actual lives. Now, this may not necessarily be on the surface, but this is subconscious, and that's not fair. That's called, you know, oppression, you know, however you want to shake it. Look at cartoons, Disney, right? That's like, you know, I don't want to even get into that whole conspiracy and all that good stuff. I just think that at the end of the day,
It's a spiral.
it's a spiral, right? And we can get into, you know, you be on YouTube with it, right? So it's important, I think, to not necessarily rehash the issues. I mean, I'm good with talking about what we went through all day, but at the end of the day, for me right now, even in my film Nguvu Kwawatu, it's more about what will we do right now? How is our stories changing and evolving right now? Like we just talked about, we're becoming business owners and, you know, delving into, you know, conglomerates and creating investment groups and, you know, reinvigorating this kind of Black Wall Street mentality. That is all inspired and done through propaganda, through programming, and through our own proclamations to ourselves and to each other. So that's why it's important for me as an actor to be not only an actor, but an actorvist, because I'm activating people's mindset. And I'd rather do that in a progressive manner.
I had another question for you, but I kind of want to I want your opinion on like this current like debate going on. It's when you mentioned like, you know, wanting to be in action and Superman and all that stuff. You like, so this is like recasting going on with Superman where they're like, oh, we're going to make Superman black.
Yeah,
and there's people who's on one side of the fence is like, okay, yay, black Superman. And there's another one like, why can't we just get our own? So do you feel like Hollywood sometimes, like, so what's your opinion on that? And then I will lead to the next one.
I get both sides. On one side, I do believe that, you know, you could be like a placating kind of thing, you know, like almost like give a dog a bone, you know, kind of the whole idea, even with like people who are offended by our people constantly on welfare. It's like, we got to do for our own, right? Mm-hmm. But if you think about it, it's the same capacity as far as like even the awards, or Oscar or Grammy or Tony or Emmy. Those aren't people. They already originated from the African diaspora. Those are, you know, those are Caucasian-driven awards that are from a Caucasian-driven medium. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that's kind of where we are. And I don't think that is necessarily a bad thing, because it's just the first ones that started. That doesn't mean they have to finish it. It doesn't mean they have to do it better. We can, like, just like music, right? It's always like, maybe someone created a piano, but someone else, you know, just mastered it and made it better. You know, it all depends on their ability to be proficient at it, and their, you know, their love for it. So I do think that, yeah, we need to inspire more writing and more creators and more, you know, producers and directors and executive producers and studios from the African diaspora and from other, you know, obviously for other diasporas. And they have done that. I mean, there's Nigeria has their own kind of Hollywood, there's a Bollywood, there's, you know, all those things. Will they roast the same amount of sales? Will they have the same amount of punching power in the box office? Who knows? I mean, Parasite won an Oscar. So I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but I also don't think it's a bad thing to include people of color in traditional white roles. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because every generation will now get to experience something different growing up. And imagine being, you know, a 35-year-old dad who's talking to his 9-year-old or 5-year-old son saying, hey, look at that, as a black Superman. When I was your age, there was a white Superman. And this goes to show you the progress that we've made, because this is a character who's been traditionally one way and now it's another. And it shows you that anything can happen. Anything's possible. We can change anything. So it's almost like a different narrative, as opposed to now we created it. We almost went like against the regime and made our own thing till we worked together. And we decided to, you know, evolve, right? I think as humanity, we have to get to the point where we don't compete with each other as much. You know, yeah. I think the competition thing is just so, it's really, it takes away from our ultimate power. We're tribal beings. Like, we're designed to be, like, we're the only creatures on the planet that create civilizations. A civilization is someone who learns from the generations and the generations before that and before that. That's how pyramids are made. Pyramids are made, they're multi-generational buildings. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah. In order to create these things, you have to have collaboration. To think that somebody who's an architect or a pharaoh or someone who created it and put that much money into it is designing something that he will never get to see in his lifetime. That's pretty interesting. That's pretty impactful if you think about it. Mm-hmm. So the idea is to be able to do something that is not only just for you, but for the good of the whole society, for the whole planet, for the whole culture. So if we can get past this whole idea of like us versus them, men versus women, trans versus straight, like that shit is so played out. Instead of competition, we need collaboration. So if someone wants to say, I want to include this person or this people into my, you know, creative space, then why would you deny that? It's the same thing with people getting upset because Daniel Kaluuya played Fred Hampton, and the whole idea of it needing to be an ADOS, or as some would say ASOS, or American Survivor of Slavery. I'm okay with either one, because at the end of the day, he's representing a person of color. And Daniel Kaluuya is no different than Fred Hampton in the sense of that his ethnicity is very so much the same. They're coming from a people who, you know, basically migrated outside of their, for whatever reason, for better or worse, outside of the, you know, tropical cultural climate of Africa to another space, and, you know, have been westernized. And now, you know, what's the difference? The difference is maybe the accent, you know? So, I mean, at the end of the day, there shouldn't be as much competition, let alone amongst our own people.
Yeah, I guess so. You just taught me a lot because I was one of those people like when that whole issue with Idris Elba wanting to be the James Bond, you know, the Black James Bond. I was like, as talented as you are, why we can't just get a script and he could just make his own movie? Why he got to be James Bond? Like, why don't we create our own stuff and show them they should have casted you as James Bond or whatever. But I get what you're saying about us as a people usually having to work together. But I think like the stigma around it be I don't want, we were willing, but are you guys willing? And that'd be like that, no,
Yeah,
now I kind of want to do my own
I've
thing.
found since the beginning of this whole situation. I mean, since a mofo came onto the shores and said, "Hey, I want you to jump on my boat," right? It's like, wait, can we trust this class of people?
Yeah.
And you know, I think that's been that's a huge thing. You know, that's kind of like that. You know, they go low, we go high, kind of thing. But again, you know, if we're going to be God's people, we got to truly be God's people. And if we're going to kind of move in faith, you know, we got to lead in that character. And that's why I think people of melanated skin have been here longer, because they lead with faith and they understand that it's not a quick thing. Like, I'll go back to the pyramid. If you look at nature, nothing's quick. And people who generally lie, cheat, and steal move in a very vacuumed space. I mean, you think about it, this whole whitewashing of the world, this westernization of the world, it's about 2,500, 3,000 years.
Yeah.
The history of this planet, if you look at, you know, actual fossils, you go to Lucy, that's 30,000 years ago. You know what I'm saying? You got talks about Atlantis, Lemurians. It talks about all these different peoples who have been a part, obviously, the Egyptian civilization. The Sphinx is 15,000, 20,000 years old in itself. There's water markings on the Sphinx. So I'm saying, like, even though it seems like a long time, it's really not. In the grand scheme of things, this country is barely 300 years old. So we just have to be mindful that, you know, we may not be creating a world that's for us anymore.
It's for our kids. Yeah. I mean, so, yeah, because I remember Morgan Freeman one time did an interview and it was like, well, how do you think we're going to move forward when it comes to race and stuff? He said, let's just stop talking about it. And I was just like, that's simple.
Black History Month. Why you know, why call it Black History?
Why just a month?
call it history, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, black and white was created in Virginia. You know, that was the idea to separate, you know, basically what they consider livestock.
Yeah. So it's like, so going back to what you're in your activist work, was there ever a point in your career like that you kind of was worried about how it impacted you? Because I know sometimes that holds a lot of entertainers back, because unfortunately, yes, we're getting to a place where we're having a lot of Black directors, a lot of, you know, Tyler Perry Studios and stuff, but we still got to work with others. So did you ever feel worried or feel like you want to pull back?
Yeah, well, you know, I felt like everything is timing. You know, this was a timing situation for sure. And it was kind of right on my front door doing this film, Nguru Kwawatu. Yeah. But I've done other projects in the past that kind of spoke to issues. And I never really had a fear of it. But one of the things that I always recognized and basically kind of acquiesced to is that, again, the cultural appropriation, right? So the idea of, like, if I go on an audition, you know, they want me to play something that's like, you know, counterintuitive, like a hood kind of character or something like that. Or even like the idea with my name, again, bringing that back into play. So it wouldn't necessarily be activism, it's just like an identity thing. And I battled that, and to the point where I had to suffer some mental health issues myself, because you know, we come into this thing with like rosy glasses, thinking that everything is going to be fine, and if we just have this blind faith and we keep doing, but we're going to go through ebb and flow. And I wasn't as conditioned as I am now to hear those no's and have the denial and have that, you know, rejection. And it bothered me. And, you know, I questioned whether I should change my name. I questioned whether I should, you know, speak in a different way, you know, learn different accents, which I still do because it helps me become more well-rounded. But essentially, there was always this notion of how can I create a character or a brand that would be more accessible or acceptable. But over the past like 5 years, man, it's been more like F that. And I think I've had some great coaching, you know, working with like coaches like Tasha Smith and Ivana Chubbuck. And, you know, shout out to my boy, Billy. We kind of have like much more of a, you know, ain't nobody else can be you, and ain't nobody else gonna talk like you, walk like you, speak like you. Do that 100% of the time, and 100% of the time, you'll be doing your best. And that's kind of my motto right now. And then when it comes to the activism stuff, I just use that same principle. So if it's right, do right 100% of the time, speak on justice 100% of the time. And if you do that, you're going to be just and right 100% of the time. I'm not saying that I need to be like the right or I'm not saying I should be like I have to be the voice to speak for all these people. No, that's not my point. But my point is that if you see something, say something. You know what I'm saying? If you feel a certain way and it's just, speak on it. You know, like not the passive aggressive way, not the, you know, we're not in fear of someone else controlling us. And again, this is something that has been a timing sense because of Instagram, YouTube, all the social media opportunities and outlets, distribution channels. We have more control. We didn't have that before, but you know, yeah, now that we have it, now it's time to like use it. Sorry. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but I definitely went through a phase of kind of like guilt and maybe a sense of sadness because I wasn't sure what I should present myself as, into a phase of like IDGAF all the way.
I mean, you have just been dropping a lot of gems. First, like you have so many quotables. First, it was the pie analogy when it comes to life. Then you're saying embrace the suck. I have never heard that before. So I'm definitely going to use that. And now it just seems like you're just a walking, like if you were making memes, people would definitely be circulating those. So
my Instagram and Twitter account popping in.
Yeah, definitely 1,000%. Like you'll be like the positive version of like the Justin LeBoy stuff. Nobody wants to watch that.
Yeah, I've seen it all the time.
Yeah, but so in an interview, and actually I'm trying to look and see if I get your words correctly. In an interview you've done with the Washington Informer, you said the inspiration behind your film Power to the People was Seize the Time, the story of the Black Panther Party and Huey P. Newton. What else contributed to the making of that film?
Well, yeah. So first of all, shout out to Seize the Time. That's Bobby Seale's book, and he's one of the co-founders of the Black Panther Party. And I think it's important to, you know, always be cognizant of our elders and our idols, not idols, but our statesmen who you know, created the torch for us to carry, or at least you know, established another torch of their own. Outside of that book, you know, I was a part of a book club. We read a lot of books, but it was really just the idea of, we got so many people that are saying we want justice, Black Lives Matter, you know, defund the police. And I saw hundreds of thousands, I mean, maybe 1 million people walk by my front door. I live on Melrose in LA. And I mean, YG had a protest, Rihanna had a protest, you know, that person had a protest, this person had a protest, the mayor had a protest, like, you know, Jesse, my buddy, I don't know him personally, but I know him through another friend from, basically I had a lot of people walk by my house, you know what I'm saying? It's like, but the thing is like, it was like 60, 70, 80% others, not a lot of Black people out there. And it just hit me. And it was like, I don't think this is really for us. This is for like people who are just bored, don't want to be in the house anymore, or they just want to stand for something. They want to be against, you know, the regime that was in power at the time. And I respected all of that. But it was important to me to actually have like an actual process. So I have a corporate background. And so one of the things in corporate, what we did in corporate America, because I always balance, like you said, I do multiple things. I always balance the corporate lifestyle up until about my 28, 29. We had measurements. We had KPIs, we had SOPs, you know what I'm saying? For those who don't know, it's a key performance indicator or a standard operating procedure. So there's like milestones essentially. And if you don't hit those milestones, then you don't get your bonuses, or you don't get, you know, promoted, or these are ways of like measuring your contributions to the company.
Like your metrics and stuff.
Your metrics, exactly. So for me, it was like, how can we take these conversations from just being random walking along the street and, you know, at some point, or in some cases creating, you know, property damage, into actually manifesting some sort of like incremental change. And so for me, this film was really my way of kind of tipping a spear that would follow with much more incremental change opportunities. And that's why I premiered it with the panel, and, you know, on the
panel, one you just did with Claudia Jordan.
Yeah, so I had the OGs on there. I had Claudia Jordan on there, but also had Dr. Benjamin Chavis, who was around with the thing. I had Jeremy Meeks.
Jeremy Meeks, that's it.
As a mugshot model, but has also spent time behind bars, like significant time. So he can test a lot of the experiences that people go through in our communities as far as police brutality. I had political comment. I had political people who are in politics, a congressman and a congressional candidate on both sides of the aisle. And then I had an ACLU attorney. And I did all that because I know how this thing has to work. The incremental change is for people like myself, like Claudia, like Jeremy, to actually have a platform and to speak to individuals like yourself, like other media outlets, to help the masses so know where to go. Then we talk to the ACLU attorneys or the Dr. Benjamin Chavis's, and we get them to construct the actual bills and the laws. And then we get these congressional candidates or these individuals to pass it. And that's the cycle. And that's the way we can make strong change. And I want that to be clear. This isn't about marching in the streets anymore. This isn't about vandalizing public property. Yeah, we'll get to the point where we're going to take down all these Confederate statues and these BS flags and all this stuff that basically supports hate. And we're going to get to the point where we're going to have equality, and this is the way to do it. You know, it's not necessarily about equality. It's about equanimity. It's about having a strong starting point. I do believe we need reparations. A lot of good books talk about that. Color of Law. It's a great book written by a white guy. Basically talks about how there's been several federal mandates that prohibited blacks from being able to purchase properties, especially after World War II, and basically solely white neighborhoods. And they created only white neighborhoods. They prohibited realtors from selling. It's a great book. So my point is that when you know better, you do better, right? So I'm accumulating this knowledge. How can I regurgitate this knowledge? How can I create, you know, a platform that people will hear from? And then on top of that, how can I support organizations that are already doing this? That's another thing, like I said, about collaboration. A lot of guys, especially, you know, people who get into the space of, you know, they have some name and some recognition behind them, they'll create their own nonprofit, which I think is cool because it's not only a good thing to do, but it's also a tax shelter. But I think it's also just as cool and important to support those that are already out there. Like I'm in Baltimore right now, and there's a group called Leaders of Beautiful Struggle. Shout out to them, because they're going around really trying to improve the actual historical land that is in Baltimore, like the Greenwood Avenue area, which is essentially the same as the Uptown Apollo, Harlem area for Baltimore. So, you know, that's not my thing, but that's their thing. And I think we should support that, you know, and we should like encourage or amplify their voices. There's so many others. So for me, it's about moving forward. You know, this whole program or this whole, my mission is to drive these things more forward. So that was what's inspired me. I was tired of, I mean, like I said, well, I didn't say this, but I'm in my 30s. So I remember Rodney King, and I remember the protests. Yeah. And then I remember, you know, the Trayvon Martin protests and then the Ferguson protests.
Like every year or so, it's something.
Then when the dude got convicted, the same hour,
the same
shot.
Oh my God, yes.
So it's like we're falling into the danger zone of being basically white noise, or no pun intended, right? And we're just basically like background noise. And you know, I don't want to ever be that, and I don't want my people or people that I, you know, call my people to be that. And I think it's important, you know, to do something that changes that narrative somehow.
Yeah, I agree, especially about the white noise thing. Because honestly, to be completely honest and vulnerable, I got to a point where I was like, I can't even watch this anymore. Like, just don't even send me nothing. Don't, because nothing's changing. I don't want to keep subjecting myself to this because of that.
Yeah, you get to the point where you honestly, I mean, I'm the same way. Where you feel like, wait a minute, I mean, I'm gonna get so mad, I might just do something I don't even want to do. So let me just ignore it. Let me just act like it's not there for right now. I'm just trying to fix my shit, you know. And at the end of the day, fair too. That's fair too. I don't think any of that is unfair. You know, this is another thing we have to consider as people of color in this country and who are dealing with this. We have a hell of a lot of trauma. We're born into trauma. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was in Mexico last weekend and I got pulled over for driving to Chichen Itza. I just got pulled over.
You're not safe nowhere.
I didn't do nothing. I had nothing on me. I didn't smell like nothing. I didn't even drink the night before. So there was no reason for him to pull me over, but he pulled me over because of my skin color and hit me for $250 on my wallet. So I'm just telling you, the PTSD is real. The trauma is real. And to me, you know, to be in a whole different country and get racially profiled is ridiculous. But I look at that and say, how can I change that narrative? I can create content. I can do interviews like this. I continue to inspire great young minds to continue to elevate their status. Because the thing is this, if you walk around looking for love from others, you ain't gonna get it unless you love yourself first.
Yes.
Not only as a person, but as a people. That's the way it has to go down. That's why Guru Kwawatu is power to the people, because at the end of the day, the greatest power that we have as a people is love.
Mm-hmm. You're completely right. And also love and just wanting to seek the knowledge of yourself. Because growing up, like I said, vulnerability. I was also one of those people that was like, I can't quote those things. Like everything that you were saying, I don't, you know, I'm gonna just push away from it because I thought it was too late. But I'm like, no, I gotta pick up books. I got to be tuned into the news. I have to do the things I have to do to educate myself. So if you said you was in a book club, right?
Yeah.
If you could give for dummies, like some books that people could probably start, what are your top books that you would probably suggest to people?
For sure. Let's start with Powernomics, Dr. Claude Anderson. It's a beautiful book as far as breaking down how the Black population of America can go from basically from the poorest to the wealthiest in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. All it takes is a little bit of teamwork, like I was saying before. It's called horizontal integration, self-love, integrating churches, integrating, you know, or spiritual organizations and centers. It's a beautiful book. I highly recommend Powernomics. Of course, Season Time by Bobby Seale, give you an understanding of the Black Panther Party, and also give you an understanding of some of the things that they did and the contributions that they made, and also some of the experiences that they had in becoming who they are. This book was actually written from him being inside of a cell most of the time. Other book I would recommend is the precursor to both of those books. It's called The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson. A lot of people don't know who Carter G. Woodson is, but Carter G. Woodson was the individual who actually created Black History Month. He also was one of the second person to graduate from Harvard as a doctorate behind Thurgood Marshall. Outside of those books, I like Color of Law. I recommend that as well. Color of Law is a very powerful book. And it talks about how federal government has systematically opposed essentially the financial advancement of Black people by denying them real estate. And if anybody knows anything about anything, real estate is basically the way to create generational wealth. And, you know, you got other diasporas who have been having houses for 60, 70 years and are passing them from generation to generation. And we commonly experience gentrification in our neighborhoods, influx of crack, cocaine, drugs, weapons. We're in environmentally hazard zones where there's industrialized zones around us, surrounding us, where we get bad water, bad air. This book covers all that. And it basically lays out a legal argument on how to acquire reparations. I think more people need to read that, and there needs to be a committee or some sort of cohort in regards to this book and to pursuing this for the betterment of our own people. Just a side note to think about it, individuals in this country had their own home for free, their own land for free, had labor for free, livestock for free, and they were selling it to Europe at a premium.
They already was ahead of the game.
They were making money hand over fist without any expenses. For hundreds of years.
It just makes me mad. It just makes me
fighting over a $1,200 stimulus package. So I would definitely read that book, and y'all want to start
I
this?
Definitely will, because
I'll ask me. And one of the cool things about these books is that you can actually get them on Audible. And then finally, you can't get this book on Audible, but I love this book. This is
I'm
a
not
kind
an
of
Audible girl. I like to hold the book.
nice. You'll love this book. This is outside of the realm of what we've been talking about a little bit. This is more in a spirituality, but I love it because it brings in really this whole bigger picture, right? We got to get past this we're American picture. We're part of this human race. We're all one people, right? So yeah, we have nations and lines and, your space and my space kind of thing. Cool. But when it comes down to how we interact with each other, it should remove ego. We should remove our selfish self, separate selfish self. And that book that teaches that to me the most is called The Lost Teachings of Atlantis. It's called Lost Teachings of Atlantis, The Children of the Law of One. Now, this is going to go over a lot of people's head. It's on some esoteric stuff. I mean, Buddy went to the Himalayas and became a monk. But it brings in a lot of the sciences that religion talks about. It brings in the idea it brings in what's considered the first religion, which is the children of law of one, the one people with all one energy from one source, kind of a monotheistic approach. It's supposed to be an extension of the Emerald Tablets, which is taught by Thoth, who essentially brought education and enlightenment to the Kush Valley, which ended up becoming Kemet or Egypt. So the point is that I like for people who are interested in reading to kind of conceptualize that side of world history as opposed to just the westernized version of history and become more cognizant of our spiritual self. Because if you can believe in Wi-Fi and you can believe in microwaves and you can believe in FM transmission, radio waves on your car, then you should be able to believe in energy and, the unseen forces that connect us.
Yeah. Because what is that? What Newton said, energy is neither lost nor destroyed, but transferred from one person to the next, or one thing to the next.
Yeah.
So like you said, if you could believe in all of these ways, how you can't believe in energy? I don't get people who be like, I don't believe in that stuff.
Right.
That don't make sense to me.
I think that people who say that for the most part are people who are afraid to, because once they do that, they have the responsibility and they have to own that responsibility. And a lot of people don't want to own their responsibilities.
And what they're putting out.
Right.
Especially if you're one of those people like, things don't work out for me. Well, what are you putting out there? And it's coming back. So.
Or they're in a space where they're constantly receiving the energy and they're not acknowledging it. Like people who are in denial of being like in abusive relationships or in an abusive employment situation, or even I had to just basically sever a friendship today because she thought I spoke too positively. And I was telling her to speak positive about herself. She's like, you keep talking down to me. I'm like, I'm not talking down to you by telling you to speak positive about yourself. But people are so, we get so caught up into this idea that we have to like bring ourselves down to lower expectations so that you can see us better, as opposed to keeping our head up and raising expectations and getting you to come to our level. It's interesting. And I think sometimes people think that as arrogance, and it's not. It's just self-worth. You don't have to be. Smiling is not an arrogant gesture, or feeling good about, the way you look in the morning, or working out, or, eating right. That doesn't need, that's why I said embrace the suck. Yeah, it may hurt to do an extra set, or it may take you another 30 minutes to cook healthy and actually put it in the oven instead of the microwave. But that's not going to kill you, or it's like, I should say, it's not going to kill you. It's like, it's all perspective, right? And, if you're constantly putting negativity out there, you're going to constantly receive negativity.
Yeah, I agree. I really 100% agree with you. So now I feel like I'm going to do a hard pivot. Are you ready for this type of question?
Okay. I like it.
I'm going to do a hard, because I feel like the audience would kill me if I didn't get your perspective on this question. So, as you know, I'm in collaborations with She's Single Media, which is a branch of She's Single magazine, right? And it gives a lot of tips for, single women on businesses, relationships, all the above. So I feel like you already know what I'm going to ask. So I want to make sure I get this question right. So I just want your take on this, as a lot of women starting in this day and age are starting to feel disconnected between, masculine and feminine energy. And that's why I was like, masculine and feminine energy and like an unbalance. So basically, do you feel that, let me see, I want to make sure I get this question right. Like the world is leading women to believe that they must adopt a lot of masculine like roles in order to get to the next step within relationships, like i.e. like taking men out on dates, asking men out, paying for the dates, half on rent, or lowering, like, not lowering standards, but understanding of like girls might pay the bulk of the bills versus if a man isn't making.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. I might get myself in trouble in saying this.
Uh-oh.
You got me in trouble.
Oh no.
Real simple. I'll be real plain. I think it's not so much the masculinization of women, it's the emasculation of men.
You want to elaborate? You're gonna have to explain that.
Well, I'm not here to judge anybody. Right? I'm not here to say what's right or what's wrong. That's not my job. It's not my position. I'm, like I said in the thing, I don't want to rule or conquer anybody. That's not my shit. Like, it's me. I'm in my own space, but I'm a man's man. I like to be a protector. I like to be a provider. That's just me. And I don't think that that's something that has to do with, your orientation per se. But I do believe that, especially with Black men, we've been beaten and downtrodden so much from our virility and strength, or we've been asked to compress it so much that that's become now, it's become fashionable. It's become sort of like a maneuver that is more accepted, and even the way clothing is being introduced, style of, vocalization in music sometimes, even in, cadences and speech and walking. And these are things that I think happen subconsciously. I don't think it's, I think it's an evolution, right? And I think everything, so I had a conversation another time with another friend of mine about, nothing stays the same, whether, some people say, well, I'm just going to sit and chill. Well, you're not actually chilling. You're actually making negative progress, right? Because your body atrophies. Or if you do something, you're making positive progress. It's always on a spiral, up or down. It's never staying. Mm-hmm. So everything that happens, it incrementally affects the next thing to happen. So for better or for worse, and I think it's unfortunately been for worse in the past 20, 30 years. I think it started with the removal of the father from the family.
I was thinking that welfare.
Whether it be through welfare, whether it be through the military. I think that with that said, because for example, you probably don't remember this, but there was a TV show, a movie called A League of Their Own. And it was basically about these girls who played baseball, and they kind of like took over the baseball league because all the men went to war. So essentially what I'm saying is that when a void is present, someone has to fill it.
So I want to make sure I'm not getting it. So you're saying like if men aren't rising to the masculinity, then obviously women or people are going to have to fill that void. So that seems to be us filling that void.
And again, this is an orientation thing. This is a gender thing. This is an energetic thing. And right. I think it needs to be clear, or I think it can't be overstated, the importance of family and the dynamics of family and having a balance in the family. And if there's an imbalance, then unfortunately the other individual may have to pick up the slack.
I never saw it that way. I'm definitely I have to take this conversation to my friends. I never saw it that way that you put it, like the unbalance of it. So if you're meeting someone, let's just say you're on a date, if you're meeting someone who is not rising up to a certain level, whether you know it or not, somebody has to fill that void to balance out. So what may look like, oh, he's asking me to pay half of this date, well, maybe he's lacking or something or whatever. It can look on the surface, it's deeper than what it is on the surface, is what you're saying. Right.
It's always deeper. And that goes back to that whole idea of mental wellness. There's PTSD. There's people who don't have fathers, legit, and don't know any better.
And don't know how to lead, or don't have or like kind of like what you're saying, like Black men especially have been like beaten, downtrodden, and
stolen.
Some of them could also not downplaying it, but like you said, it can make it their narrative as well. as to why, oh, it's hard out there. But are you trying? You know, oh, you know, the streets is tough.
Or like when I try, I get told, why am I trying? You know how many times I got brothers and cousins who, you know, went to school in Brooklyn and Bronx, and, you know, counselors would be like, well, you know, why are you even coming to school? They would talk crazy. Because it's like, you know, it's like, you gotta understand, man, like the black man, that's why Public Enemy #1 became called their group Public Enemy #1, because that's what the black man was. You know, I mean, and trust me, I am not taking anything away from the plight of the sisters. Like, black women go through 10 times worse because they go through the sexual objectification process of that, which is also incredibly traumatizing. You know, sexual assault. I mean, it's ridiculous, ridiculous. So you know, this isn't this isn't a competition thing. I'm not knocking. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm expressing the fact that if you're asking why there may have been a group of people who have to cover the ground where they don't necessarily normally have to, I think it's because of the imbalance.
I really like that perspective. I feel like that's something that's a whole different conversation right there. Then
no, it does. It comes from empathy. I think when you start to think about debates, and if you ever have a debate with anybody, think about empathy in that process. Think about, okay, what is the victim's mindset? What is the culprit's mindset? What is the condition? What is the context of the situation? What would I do in both of those shoes? I have this exercise called the chair exercise. If I want to have a conversation, or if I'm trying to decide something, I have a conversation with both sides of myself, and I sit in both chairs and I talk to that person as if I'm there. It's like almost like a visualization exercise. But it allows me to enforce empathy in my space. I learned that from that book, the Children of the Law of One. And the thing is that, man, if you consider empathy first, you're going to be so much further ahead of the game. And I think that's for any field, any business, any kind of technology, any industry, whether you're a realtor or a chiropractor or a ticket clerk. If you move in empathy, you're going to be one of the best at it. Even in athletics.
I'm muted because I have a loud neighbor. So no, but I really like that mindset of movement empathy, because a lot of the times we come from a place of, but let me, like, a lot of times people are taught, this is your perspective, this is that person's perspective, but we're not taught to include a feeling within that conversation, or some sort of like empathy or sympathy toward, not sympathy, but yeah, like you said, empathy is a better word, empathy into that type of function. It's like we're doing the thing, but we're not really present for the conversation.
Because we're only hearing about our side, ego, because we're competing. Mm-hmm. That's what a debate is. I win, you lose. No, it's not like that.
No.
Like, that's what makes us different as sentient, celestial, divine, godly beings. That's what makes us different than sharks and alligators and lions. They deal with wins and losses. We deal with progression.
Yeah, I really wish I could really touch deeper on that type of conversation when it comes to the dating world and the imbalance and stuff. But you're obviously not here for that.
I mean, you can, just with someone else.
Yeah, you're right. So, like, what else can we expect from you in the future?
Yeah. So as far as acting work, I'm in True to the Game 3. It'll be out end of summer, I believe. Shout out to Manny Haley. He's got so much shit going on right now. I think he's shooting like 10 movies right now. Also, I'm currently working on a project called Lion Sisters. It's about sorority sisters, and that'll be out probably end of the third quarter. Outside of acting, producing wise, I'm writing a script, a few scripts. One that I'm excited about is called Brother Ninja, and it's going to be like kind of like a martial arts Shogun, Bruce Leroy kind of thing meets The Equalizer set in like The Wire. So it's sort of like kind of like bringing back the old school, you know, Shogun kind of black martial artists back to the cinema. It's been a while for that. And then I'm also working on a documentary called Our Legacy Project. I got a lot of shit going on. So the documentary Our Legacy Project is basically covering the black man's legacy and the complex of creating a legacy in this country. I think that's something that would be interesting to see. But then also, as I told you before, I'm interested in how to drive conversations forward. So the documentary will almost be like a blueprint for young young Black men to kind of change their narrative and create their own legacy. And outside of that, I'm doing, I have a coaching program called Moments of Alignment. We'll be launching that in 6 weeks. And it'll be a 21-day transformation company or program that'll help people just find tools on how to align themselves to their higher self. A lot of what we talked about today will be covered: empathy, removing your separate selfish self, the meditative practices like the chair exercise that I talked about. These things will be a part of a 21-day daily program where we'll kind of like take you out of your routine and give you a routine. We'll also partner you up with other people, and you'll create a cohort, and you'll be able to create something special, whatever you choose to be. And it's sort of like a help. It's a tool to help you activate. I think a lot of people, they'll talk and they'll speculate and they'll strategize, but they won't activate. And the activation is the greatest tool for a manifestation in abundance. And then, you know, outside of that, you know, it's just continuing to work with my team, you know, having, you know, these great conversations. I'll be talking to more media outlets as the, you know, weeks and months go by, and just kind of continue to promote the film. I'll be putting it in film festivals. We're doing that in the next couple of weeks. And then, you know, moving on to the next projects. I'll also be working hand in hand with, like I said, Leaders of Beautiful Struggle, newearthlife.org down in at LA to help, and I didn't even mention this, but help strengthen the fight against or for restorative justice and transformative justice. And part of that coaching program will go to these programs as well, just as a pro bono, as a gift to kind of help the kids see themselves in a different mindset and have better tools. So yeah, in a nutshell, I got a little thing, I got a little stuff, little something happening.
How many hours do you get to sleep?
Oh, yo, check this out. Tip of the day: get you a VA.
Oh my God. Well, this was definitely a pleasure speaking to you. You have dropped so many gems that honestly, I am truly can't wait to text my friends and just say, like, we need to have this type of conversation. I really enjoyed you. Please let the people know where they can find you so they can find everything that you're doing and follow you.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Kinyumba Mutakabbir. I appreciate you guys listening. You can find me at kinyumbamutakabbir.com. It's there on the bottom of my name, my title, my picture. At King_Yumba on IG. But if you go to Kinyumba Mutakabbir or kinyumbamutakabbir.com, you'll find a contact form. IG, you can contact me. And then if you want to see the film for this month only, it'll be free on the website, watchnkw.com. So it'll be available for you to watch. And after this month, I'm going to take it down because we're going to get on these film festivals.
Thanks everybody for tuning in to the She's Single Media collaboration with Kicking It with Kenya. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, peace.
Hey, yo, shout out to people with names that start with K.
Yes. Okay. And say them correctly.
And say them correctly.
Let me be on a remix.
Kinyumba Mutakabbir, Kinyumba Mutaka, Kinyumba Mutakabbir.
This nice talking.
Give him more Grammy.
I'm gonna get on a remix. I have to.
Gotta do it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.